Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's edition of Toggle's Daily Video Insights. Today, we're going to take a look at why potentially there could be 14% upside in Square, and in fact, all of this due to reasonably optimistic expectations by street analysts and coupled also with momentum that could be turning around. So, as you can see here, actually, Toggle has highlighted a couple of other inflection points here, in particular one here in May that was very, very well timed, and then continued to indicate that there were other positive forces that could potentially propel the stock higher. Eventually, it did rally, and so it's interesting to see what this current one could mean for the stock. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail as to what is it that Toggle has uncovered this time. Keep in mind this is actually quite a short-term insight. So the expectation is that based on the past paradigm, this would unfold within a month or potentially even within a couple of weeks. There have only been 4 other similar occasions, so that's the downside. There's not a lot of history to analyze in this case. But across those, if we look at why it might move, you can see that whenever momentum was this week, but analyst expectations had been rising and were high, the stock subsequently rallied. So we've had a couple of occasions when this was the case, and this is potentially the kind of configuration that is bullish for the stock. Of course, there are other things that matter, but this is definitely a positive sign for the company as a whole. Now, looking at the past performance, again, you can see that in most cases, the subsequent returns were really quite compelling. The downside was limited, so you're looking at the risk reward on this force alone at about 3 or 4 to 1. The returns to the downside were kind of concentrated at or just below down 10%. Now, importantly, you want the price action to follow or at least stay within this confidence interval. If it departs too far from it and drops below the red line, then the time has come to reassess whether or not this driver really matters for the stock and perhaps something else has been driving it instead. It's always good to check again the overview to see there have been other forces that have emerged that Toggle was able to identify that could potentially counteract the positive expectations from the street analysts. So much for Square today. In the daily brief, which by now should already be in your mailboxes if you subscribe to it. If you don't, you can do so at toggle.global. We also discuss the small caps, always a popular topic, and so hopefully you'll enjoy this daily dose of fresh market content. For those of you who don't receive daily brief, we highly recommend it. Otherwise, if you'd like to see more of these videos, like this one or subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we produce them every market trading day with the singular goal of trying to break down the barriers between you and the data, particularly fundamental data that often prove to be challenging for individual investors because they don't necessarily have the infrastructure of the institutional fund managers to analyze in great detail and find out which of the fundamental drivers are currently important for a particular stock. So we try to do that on your behalf. Thanks for your attention, and we'll see you again tomorrow.